but also why we are here. What was maybe one question that we had on our mind as we joined this session this morning. So, John, do you want to start?
Sure. My name is John Meller. I'm at Fresno State in California. I teach entrepreneurship in the curriculum here, and basically I knew about AIM2Flourish back when you all presented at AOM in Anaheim, and so we've started to do things with students here on a slow basis. It's not very quick, but so the idea is that there's a lot of students that are interested in the social enterprise of aspects of things, and then we try to connect that with the entrepreneurship aspect. And so it's nice to see what AIM2Flourish is doing and bringing students in to see what other students are doing around the world.
Yeah. So Jen, your students are grads or undergrads?
Both. Yeah, so yesterday I was in classes, both undergrad. We started our semester yesterday, and both undergrad and graduate courses. Yeah.
Okay. Claire, do you want to go next?
Sure. Good morning. I'm Claire Summer. I work with the AIM2Flourish team, and I'm delighted that we're here together today. And I'm really looking forward to hearing Ruben's experiences as one of our pioneer professors. His students have published 30 stories, which is amazing. And then I'm also looking forward to giving you all an update on what's coming next. So we are continuing with AIM2Flourish as an active learning element that you're using in your classes with your students. And we're also preparing to award the first Flourish prizes in June at the 4th Global Forum. So it's really wonderful to be in this part of the cycle.
Nice. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
I was thinking, Claire, maybe a little bit later, after Ruben made his presentation and we addressed questions and answers, that you can give us some updates and some news, just to benefit if someone else joins in later, that you don't have to repeat or they miss it. Is that okay?
That's perfect.
Okay. Well, and me, I'm calling from Fort Lauderdale, Florida today. We have a cold day here. It's 63, so we have a real winter day. Hello, Camila, can you hear us? Camila. Hello, can you hear us? We have someone else joining. Hello.
Hello, I'm hearing you now. Yes.
Okay, welcome. We were just doing quick introductions, and I was saying that I'm joining from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and it's a nice, cold winter day with 17 degrees.
Yes. I'm talking from France. I'm Camila. I've been in a meeting before last year with you and another person from the US. And now I'm joining again since I want to introduce in my courses, which will start in February here in Nantes. I'm in the city of Nantes in France, near Brittany. Yes.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome, and you're up for a treat because we will have a special presentation today by Ruben, who will, in a moment, he will introduce himself too. And what I was just sharing was that as we start this new year, this is the first session, virtual session in the year, we are looking forward to what are the things that have worked, what were the experiences that really made it a rich opportunity to interact with students, to open different type of conversations. And I have to say it was Ruben's idea a few months ago when he said, you know, it has been such a learning curve for me when I did it the first time, and then I was polishing it and improving it and getting it right. Now it's getting really easy. And I said, wouldn't it be nice if you share something of your lessons, because many people are just starting, others are struggling with the first time around. All the courses are different and all our students are different, but at least if we can hear other stories from colleagues that what they have tried. And we want to continue with this every month, having a small presentation of someone that wants to share how his or her experience was. So, Camila, just to give you a quick notice, we have John Mueller here, who is calling in from California, and we have Claire Sommer connecting from the US also. In what city are you today, Claire?
Here, for
no,
me,
Claire, you're muted.
Ah, Claire. Yes.
Well, she's unmuting herself. She's in Connecticut.
Here I am.
In New Jersey. Where are you?
West Orange, New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay, so Ruben, welcome and tell us a little bit about you, where you are. And just a quick note, I have a class that I am teaching today. So after, at around 8:30, you will see my video go blank because I need to take on that class. And Claire will continue facilitating for the remaining half an hour. Ruben.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Everybody can hear me? Put up your thumb if you can. Yes? Okay. All right, John. Good morning. 5 in the morning. That's real tough for you. Tough out there in California. Bonjour, Camilla. Ça va? Okay. I'm from University of Guelph in Ontario, Canada. And if you're not familiar with Guelph, we are about halfway between Toronto in Ontario and Niagara Falls. So 2 landmarks. We are actually a university that was created out of an agricultural college. And I'll just give a heads up in that I've been involved with AIM2Flourish as a result of some time back chatting with Claire, maybe it was 2 years ago, right? And 2 years ago we were talking and she invited me into the community itself. At that point in time, there were very few stories, only a few dozen stories, I believe.
Yeah.
And we're still talking about how to go ahead and involve and engage the students. At that point in time, it's interesting in that, I guess you'd call it serendipitously, we were starting up a corporate social responsibility course in our college. I teach or am involved with the College of Business and Economics at the University of Guelph. So in our program, we have essentially everybody who goes through, goes into business and graduate with a Bachelor of Commerce in Marketing and Accounting and whatever happens to be. So we devised and designed a course called Corporate Social Responsibility that was offered in the 3rd year for 3rd and 4th year undergraduate students. So the first time we ran it, it had nothing to do with AIM2Flourish. It was all traditional teaching, traditional social responsibility, sustainability issues, everything to do with business ethics. And at that point in time, even the United Nations SDGs, 17 SDGs, were not really, I believe they had just been approved. So that was about the fall of 2015, was it? 2015, 2016, around that time. So we're just starting to implement that into our program. So in any case, what happened was I was interested in the whole concept because part of my research is into social entrepreneurship and sustainability issues. And this was a new course. So as we were talking with Claire, one of the things that attracted me, which I'm sure will attract other professors, is that this AIM2Flourish initiatives allow students to engage in sustainability and in the SDGs from the viewpoint of their local community and actually positively impact what happens in their local community. There's something called a process of appreciative inquiry that's promoted by AIM2Flourish, which is pretty good. It not only engages the students, gets them to think, put a sustainability mindset, but also engages the community. So as they interview the social entrepreneurs, they're actually positively reinforcing the message that what they're doing is good, is a good effort. Sometimes people who work as entrepreneurs tend to think they're in a little silo and they're developing this, whatever it happens to be, and nobody else is looking at them. Whereas this makes them part of a greater community. So the the AIM2Flourish initiative, there are a couple of ways you can approach this. The way I approached it, it goes back to the fact that I was involved in developing a new course. So I staged it in a couple of stages. And part of this reflective exercise is to look back and see, in fact, I did stage it as 3 stages. When I initially started, I thought it would be only a single stage. But in fact, when I reflectively look back at how it happened, there were 3 distinct stages. The first one was just an awareness stage. In my class, I essentially have a class of about 150 undergraduate students. It is a mandatory course. Everybody has to take this course. So I have both the willing and the unwilling going through the course. So I have some students who really were interested, even some students from other faculties who joined the course. So the initial impetus for us going into corporate social responsibility dealt around strategic issues of corporate social responsibility and then with leadership issues. So when I was talking with Claire about AIM2Flourish, I was trying to figure out how do I integrate that into a course that talks about corporate strategy and also leadership. There was a potential area. So the first time I ran my course, I did not have AIM2Flourish. But the second time, I said, you know what, let me try it out as a bonus assignment. So I wasn't sure if it was going to take off. So I decided, let's make it a little bonus. I assigned a 3% of total course marks on this bonus. And this bonus was essentially using the template that AIM2Flourish had developed. And all of you who are getting into this will have seen a 2-page template, which asks some very basic appreciative inquiry questions and so forth. I asked the students, I already had formed them into groups of 5 or 6, and I had about 30 plus groups. So I asked them, as you're going through and doing your other assignments, one of the group assignments was to actually investigate corporate social responsibility with other publicly held companies. I said, as a bonus, why don't you take a look at local companies that are essentially more of a social entrepreneurial type of company, and give me a follow-through, follow the guideline provided by this document. So I showed them the AIM2Flourish document. I gave them a brief presentation on what AIM2Flourish is, showed the website, some of the key stories, and I said, take a look at this, and if you're able to create a story around that, get back to me, submit it to me. If it's appropriate, I will give you a 3% bonus mark. And if it's appropriate, I'll have it published. Now, I work also in Canada, we work under certain restrictions for visiting companies and using humans for research. And I don't know if it's the same in France. I don't know if it's the same in California. But we have something we call a tri-council requirement, which requires us to have an ethics board approval whenever we actually ask any human participants questions. So at that point in time, I didn't have ethics board approval. So I said, that's fine. We're using publicly available information. We're not actually compromising anybody, blah, 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 and so on. The result for that stage 1 was that I did get about 3 or 4 good stories, and not only that, but afterwards the students did seem to be motivated. They did seem engaged. They said, you know, this was an interesting exercise, allowed us to explore a little bit more. So then I went on to stage 2. And for those of you who are looking at possibly holding this, stage 2 is probably where you're going to start. In stage 2, I then followed what AIM2Flourish was providing in terms of resources. At that point, it was the summer, I believe, 2016, maybe a little earlier. And there are professor resources which give instructions on how to conduct appreciative inquiry and so forth. In the summer session, my class size is much smaller. I only have about 40 people. So I thought that would be manageable, breaking up in groups of 5 or 6. So that's only 6, 7 groups or so. So these groups, I then made it an actual assignment worth 10% of the marks. And in this particular segment, I said, let's focus on the Sustainable Development Goals. I gave a couple of lectures dealing with the Sustainable Development Goals, and I talked about How are we looking at this from the viewpoint of corporate social responsibility and social impact and local initiatives? And I gave him the word that, okay, at this point in time, you can go ahead and start interviewing people, but keep in mind that we're just getting ethics research approval. So during that process, kind of a strange time, because didn't really have approval, but they were allowed to talk to people and get them, get feedback from them. The result was pretty good. Out of the 6 or 7 companies that were interviewed, I think I got 3 or 4 good stories. And once again, it was positive. Students were engaged. And I thought, okay, I've gone through the pilot phase. Let me go full bore into it. So in the semester, last semester, I ran it full bore as a full assignment. I have a 2 or 3 page guideline document I provide to the students. I go through the stage of going through an exercise in class, telling them to engage in appreciative inquiry questions of each other, to start getting them involved into what does it mean to be asking somebody, how do you feel about what your process is, and so on. And of course, as everybody knows, as professors, we get the usual bell curve. People are engaged and people are not, and the majority are saying, so what's in it for me? And we go through it, and in the end, I give them the assignment, which some of them really, that's all they're looking for. And the assignment is to go around their local area. And local, I specified to them, does not mean just local around the city of Guelph. For you people who are not aware of Guelph, we're a very small city. We only have 100,000 people around Guelph. But we're surrounded by larger municipalities. An hour away, we have a city of 3 million people. Another half hour away, we have a city of 300,000 people. And our catchment area has students from various areas. So I told them, wherever you are closest to, doesn't matter what the local is where you are from. Look around for a social entrepreneurship. It cannot be a not-for-profit, it has to be a for-profit. And then go ahead and interview them, but first ask their permission, of course. Tell them about AIM2Flourish, tell them of what the intention is, and then find out whether they're actually fulfilling any of the sustainable development goals. Is it a scalable effort? Is it sustainable? And so on. And very, very open-ended questions. And then I told them the assignment is, you provide to me a completed form, the AIM2Flourish form. Number 2, completed transcript. So the transcript can be either oral, written, doesn't matter how, but a transcript of the interview, and a film or pictures, depending what you're comfortable with. So I had everything from a typed transcript to a YouTube type of a description of what went on, all the way through a variety of pictures. And the successful ones, I ended up getting about 20 out of my 30 teams. Actually, 20 submitted some really good stories. And funny enough, some of those stories involved former students of my class for social responsibility who went off and did some sort of entrepreneurial activities, which was kind of nice. But the interesting part was, as they were collating their stories, some of the students, I also asked them to do a reflective exercise on how they felt about the whole exercise of doing the AIM2Flourish story. Some of them mentioned that this was really empowering for the social entrepreneur and also enlightening for themselves. So they would say, oh, initially I didn't know what to expect, blah, blah, blah. But after talking to the social entrepreneur, I found that they were suddenly energized and became more passionate about their cause and said, you know, this gives me validation for what I'm doing. That was a social entrepreneur. And for the students were saying it was a good exercise in that it allowed us to engage with what was going on locally. It allowed us to find out that, in fact, we have companies locally who are involved in these kinds of exercises. And for some of the students, they felt more motivated to keep going on the sustainability aspect. gave them greater awareness of the social development goals from the UN, whereas before, I would say 99% of them had no idea what the UN goals were. By the end of the class, probably 75% had a much better idea, and I'd say a solid 45 to 50% were really engaged in that. So at the end of the exercise, this is one of these where the rubric essentially is, were you able to engage? Do you have a good transcript? Did you fulfill all the requirements? Most of them who did a good job got anywhere from 7 to 10 out of 10. There were a few who didn't do as well because they simply did not engage, and that's the usual bell curve of performance of students. But in the end, the AIM2Flourish became and is a part of this course. I'm not teaching it this semester. I've actually moved on, for those of you who are aware. I actually took on a position at a different college. I'm at Sheridan College, close to Toronto. I'm now an associate dean in the business department. So I'm looking to see how I'm going to integrate that into my group. But I have to go slow. There's some cultures I have to change around here. But I really believe in it, and I think it on a global basis, it would be very, very positive. And just as an additional note, University of Guelph is also one of the prime champions. And as such, we've tried to show people that the AIM2Flourish exercise really is a great way to engage students in the principles for responsible management education. And I've even had Isabel in another class actually be a guest speaker remotely to provide some ideas about sustainable mindsets. Isabel, does that give you an overview, more or less, of what we've gone through?
Yes, it's a good start. Let me just pause a moment and welcome Christina and Mehdi, who joined us while you were talking, and I typed into the chat briefly welcome so that they knew what was happening.
Thank you.
And what I think what we can do is deal a little bit with the questions that we have on our minds. And one of my questions, I had two, and I say them now because, as I told you, I have a class that I have to take at 8:30, and so I will be leaving. But hopefully then we are co-facilitating with Claire Sommer for Christina and Mehdi. Claire is connecting from New Jersey. And what my two questions were, one is, what do you think that kept these students more engaged than others? When you say, well, normally we expect that some are not engaged, do you have some theories about why some were more engaged, something that can give us a clue? And the second, what was a learning for you in the different times that you have done it?
Okay, thank you, Isabel. Good question. Let me try and address them. First of all, hello, Christina. Hello, Mehdi. And the first question was revolving around how do I get people engaged? Is that more or less it?
Yes. What's your thought? Why are some more engaged than others? Do you have any?
There are a couple of thoughts about that. In the class, as most students are trying to make a link between what we are teaching on corporate social responsibility with real life. So it's trying to make that link more realistic. So one of the ways that was reinforced was by showing some of the examples, innovations in the AIM2Flourish website, to show them that, look, these are students, this is what they did. So those students who were there in class actually were able to see what exactly was the output. And then the class, although it was 150 people, I'm kind of a professor who likes to solicit information by standing in front of them and telling them, answer me, essentially, without embarrassing them, of course. So they look at me and they say, and I ask them, so can you think of a company that actually does something like this? And I give them some time in class to start giving some ideas. And when they start coming through with not-for-profits like the United Way and many of these not-for-profits, I say, no, think of a company that's making money. Who else? And then they start coming up with the examples of Tom's, Yes, Tom's shoes. Good. Okay. Who's doing a similar thing? Now, who lives downtown? Now, who lives in your residence? And think of what's going on. So that's how I was engaged. And some of the students who were engaged already had friends of friends who were involved in that, or they were buying their local smoothie at a place that was very sustainably oriented, or buying their food at a vegan restaurant. And so they already have some kind of connection. The second question really goes back to, I think you're asking me what I thought, what I got out of it. Is that what you're asking, Isabel? Second question?
Yes, and I have 1 minute and then I need to run to my class, but give me a brief.
Very briefly, what I got out of it was that the students who were engaged really embraced the overall course a lot more than those who were not. And my lesson learned is make the assignment worth something, give enough time for them to do the assignment, but not too much time, so there's a sense of urgency, and then have them practice the idea of appreciative inquiry so they know what exactly is happening out of appreciative inquiry rather than going to a company and just asking random questions. So they know why they're asking specific types of questions. So those would be lessons learned, Isabel.
Thank you so much. I'm sure you have more than those, but I thank you for accommodating it so quickly before I have to run. Claire, over to you. Wonderful seeing you all. I don't know, Christina, and maybe where you're calling from. Wherever you are, you're welcome. You're on this virtual space now. It was lovely to see you. I get a run.
Okay, bye-bye. Wonderful. Thank you, Isabel. I hope everyone, you can hear me all right? Hello?
I can hear you, Claire.
Oh, good. Wonderful. That's wonderful. So Isabel needed to depart because she has a teaching engagement, but we're all still here together. Thank you so much, Ruben. Do you want to continue? Any other thoughts about what really made AIM2Flourish work for your students, or would you like to, shall we move to some questions now?
Let me just do one last little thing about the AIM2Flourish exercise. I would encourage to use the professor resources. There are other professors who've put in a description of the curriculums that they've provided. Most of the ones I've seen, we're dealing with graduate courses. I deal with undergraduate. But again, definitely use everybody else's guidelines. I did look at those guidelines when I looked at creating this assignment within the course itself. So that's what I would say. And then the next thing is, don't assume that the first time you run through it, it's going to be automatic. I've heard comments that there are cultural issues. I would kind of take that with a grain of salt. I come from a multicultural background, and in Canada, we're highly multicultural. So it's more, I think, a sense of respect. Whichever way you do it, there's always a sense of respect that has to be maintained. So let me throw it back to you guys. Get yourselves off mute and ask me any questions, please.
So Ruben, thank you very much. I've got a quick question about how you use appreciative inquiry in your classroom. Was that a positive? Did the students actually notice a difference with that?
Okay, John, right? Okay, John, it's a good question. You know as well as most of us professors that time is tough to, we're limited in time. We have a lot of stuff to teach, and we can't just take a whole hour to have them practice appreciative inquiry. The way my courses were set up, I had two ways. One semester I had a single 3-hour segment, and the other semester I had 2 1.5-hour segments. So the way I did appreciative inquiry practice was at the end of the 3-hour segment, I would hold a 15-minute exercise, essentially to get people moving and get them to chat with each other. And I'd say, we're going to practice appreciative inquiry. All I need to have you do is 2 or 3 questions of each other. And then I do that. I'd see at the ebb and flow of the conversation. At a certain point in time, I'd say, okay, let's stop it right now. And I'd ask maybe 3 or 4 groups, what kind of questions did you ask? How did you feel when the questions were asked? Those types of things. And then the summary of that would be, okay, so you see how you felt, how good you felt about getting questions that reinforced your sense of self-worth. That's how the company is going to feel. So that's what I was trying to get them to engage in and really understand that it's not just one-way conversation, but getting the company to feel appreciated and to give them a sense that what they're doing matters is a big part of the inquiry side. Does that answer your question, John? Yeah.
So Mehdi has joined us since we did our introductions. And also Christina, did you have forgive me, I don't think you had a chance to say good morning either. So maybe Mehdi and then Christina could also just tell us where you're calling from and where you are and your experience with AIM2Flourish and any questions for Ruben.
Thank you. I'm right now in Paris, France, not Paris, Texas. In last semester, I accepted a temporary position in China in purpose to do a research. And I'm going back in about 3 weeks. It's very enlightening what you are saying, because I'm facing, as you can imagine, we have a large number of students in class. I have class of 160. Last semester I had 600 students, and this semester I'm going to have 600 another. And the university is huge, and I think the president of the university also is open to these ideas of implementing. And to make things even more interesting and more urgent, I'm in a Henan region, which is the most polluted city of the world, actually. So at the risk of my health, I'm trying to find a way to go beyond this awareness of the younger generation. Now, in CSR perspective, I found it easier to explain to students. At the graduate level, in terms of a strategy, when I look at the AIM2Flourish and all these sustainable development goals, has been easier for me, for the graduate students, to convince them that it is directly linked to their bottom line, and strategically explaining that it's part of what you need to plan in the future. But most of the students are undergrad. They understand the concept very well. They are suffering from it, they are aware of it. And the examples that are looking at, they are finding, especially in China, are multinationals. They are looking at top leadership to make the changes. Now, combining sustainability with entrepreneurship and making a sustainable or social entrepreneurship course, or engaging them, that's the difficulty I have. Most of them, they don't have financial resources. They are looking for a small business, and the link between environmental issues and sustainability issues to a small business is not very realistic to them. It's a financial survival that comes first. I'm trying to find ways to show the link between the financial results for small businesses, mom and pop shops that can make more profit if you implement. With the large pool of students that I have, I think even if I get 10 students engaged, even if I get 5 social entrepreneurship initiatives, still I will call it a good semester. So expectations are not very high, but that's what makes a difference once you have a few people. To make things a little bit more constructive, I'm thinking that now that I have 3 more weeks, I'm browsing around to come up with a set of questionnaire to do a research that I can use it in terms of creating the intellectual interest in the students, or awareness, and also getting them engaged, actively engaged. What are the things that they need? What are the needs that interest them to do? How we can link this to financial results, and also I would like to get some policy and educational recommendations, educational curriculum changes for the university, to convince them that students are willing, they are asking for it, they are interested in it. So let's change the curriculum, let's adapt the curriculum, so we give them what they need, and it's good for their future, it's good for your society. At the same time, since the university has a bargaining power with the regional government, so link that to the policy and recommendations. So if I can come up with a set of questionnaire fast enough before the semester is over, I can run that as a pilot project at the university, which I don't have to ask any permission. I can do my classes. That pilot result, research result, will help me to do it in a broader sample and do something constructive while I'm still there. So if you have any insights, any questionnaire, any recommendations, any presentation, any assignments that I've used that I can be just for educational purposes, for me to understand better how to approach my research question and do my work, I appreciate that.
Okay. So thank you for that, Mehdi, and I'm going to need a little bit more help to understand more specifically what exactly would be helpful, but I love the inquiry because that is something that our broader professor community can help us with. So let's circle back to that in just a second to dig down a little bit. Christina or Camilla? Well, actually, Christina, I see you're off mute. Can you, good morning and welcome.
Thank you. I'm calling in from New Jersey. I'm teaching in the BARD MBA in Sustainability program, and my course is the Employees and Organizations course. And we use AIM2Flourish because of the entrepreneurial aspect. A lot of, someone else was saying that a lot of the examples are large corporations, and we find this resonates with the students, that it's entrepreneurial in nature and local and allows for engagement. We specifically look at the culture creation aspect of it through AI and focus on that. So it's a project that I give to the graduate students, and we've had some great success, and we hope to continue to do it. It's a very popular exercise. Since this is my first time involved with it, I did have a couple of questions that I'd like to throw out. One is kind of deciding whether to assign companies to students versus having students select companies. I kind of see advantages to both. I certainly think from an engagement point of view, having students select companies is the way to go. Because of the structure of our particular program, where many of our students are working full-time plus full-time students, I'm just not sure that they have the bandwidth to identify companies. So I'm wondering if people have had experiences on both sides. And the other is, you know, what size of group works best? There's always a group dynamic challenge in group projects with, you know, 1 or 2 people leading the charge and 3 or 4 people hanging on their coattails. So what size of group seems to work out, and any recommendations on suggesting group structure or motivating group interaction and participation? Any of those things would be really helpful to me. So thank you, and it's great to meet everyone.
Great, welcome. Thank you for those questions. I think we'll throw those back to the group. Camilla, why don't you come off mute and let us know what you're thinking, your questions, your thoughts.
Thank you, Claire. I hope everybody's hearing me. Yes, in fact, I'm here. This is the second call I've been AIM2Flourish. I attended the session that they organized at the Academy of Management last summer, and I've been involved with the Prime for some years, mostly in the working group on gender equality, which is my subject of research. So I've been to the Prime meetings on this community, especially also, I'm Brazilian, so I've been also with Brazilian members of the Prime. So what I'm going to do in terms of this semester and why I'm here is that I'm introducing with a colleague of mine, we are co-teaching in a course called Managing and Leading a Team. which is a course which mixes human resources and organizational behavior. So normally we give to the students a project where they choose a company, a traditional company, and they need to tell about the recruitment, selection, and this kind of thing. We already also launched different projects, like they want entrepreneurial projects in this course, in the sense that they had to create something, a product or a service, which was interesting. And this year, we want to introduce AIM2Flourish. So I don't have experience with AIM2Flourish. I'm going to introduce for the first time now. We are co-teaching a course, so 2 professors in one course of 12 sessions, 3 groups, 12 sessions of 2 hours each. So I was wondering in terms of time, if this is enough time, because Ruben Burga was talking about time before, that we all have time limits. I was wondering if it's possible, and I hope so, because this is going to be to us the main assignment that they're going to have for the course. And also I was able and, how can I say, open to hear some ideas, some experiences from you to lead it the best way in this course. This is why I'm here. So if you have any ideas, or in terms of timing, does it seem reasonable to you from February to May, to the end of April? Like how much time is the minimum, and which are the advice that I can get? Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, if I can, I'm going to go in reverse order if I can. Camilla, one of the questions about timing, I know we're all pushed on time, and the students will always require more time. They'll always request more time. I don't have enough time, this is too short, blah, 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 the whole story. So the assignment that I've given them on the AIM2Flourish is approximately a month. So about 2 or 3 weeks after the start of the semester, I introduce the issue of AIM2Flourish. I give them a heads up on week 1 that there's going to be a similar an assignment, and they can always read it. If they're very keen, they will go in and read the assignment. But usually in week 3, roughly, I explain verbally what the assignment is, and I tell them that it is due in about a month. And as usual, in the last week, everybody scrambles to do it. But theoretically, they have a month to do it in. And what's going to happen? Now, this next answer goes into what Christina has mentioned. The next question is, do you choose a company or you let them choose? What ends up happening is that there is towards the last week before the assignment is due, I have 2 or 3 groups out of a group set of 30 or whatever, who come to me saying, they can't find a company, or they've approached 2 or 3 companies, they've been rejected. What do I do? They're panicked because it's worth 10%. At that point in time, I tell them, okay, you've given me proof that you can't find somebody, fine. Why don't you choose a company, not public, but choose a company and do the assignment without doing the interview. In other words, use publicly available resources. And I know that works because I had done it before in a previous stage. So that's another way of doing it when you get down to the time crunch. And when, for example, you're dealing with people who are working full-time and part-time. One thing that Camilla mentioned was about the HR and OB viewpoint. I think that's really exciting, actually, because you take the angle of leadership and management and see what actually makes this successful, this social entrepreneurship. What aspect of leadership or management are they using? Is it transformational? Is it servant leadership? What exactly are they doing? So I think that's a neat, I didn't think about that before, but that's a neat angle to approach this AIM2Flourish on. Going on to the really challenging question that Mehdi has asked about dealing in the Chinese culture. I lived in China for 4 years, so I had to deal with a culture of let's make money, number one, and then follow through on everything else afterwards. And I'm aware of it, very aware of it. And I think one suggestion, very respectfully, could be, we know that to succeed in China, you have to be profitable. So the primary goal is, how do I make money? But if you can tie in the one of the SDGs to it, we realize that they're not going to be totally clean in terms of either pollution or in terms of fully complying with one of the SDGs, but if they're able to contribute in some way. I know also in China there are certain restrictions on freedom of social entrepreneurship, and that it is led a lot of times by top businesses and so on. And yes, you could orient the exercise towards seeing what are the multinationals doing in China, or what are the local companies doing in cooperation with leadership to address one of the SDGs, again in compliance with whatever the government is emphasizing. So it is a tricky thing to do, but my experience has been that Chinese students will be very creative and very innovative when they know that they have to prove that they can actually create a profitable solution.
Yeah. But the graduate level is working very nicely. Undergrad is a little bit more tricky. Now I find a way in terms of at least planting the seed in their mind, so when they go to graduate program, if they are not with me, they can continue on this line. I have made the assignment related to these topics given more weight. And I make the assignment in 3 steps. It's not one assignment due. It's their midterm. It's a work in progress. So first, in terms of selecting the company, I give them the option. Because if I want to give them the name of the company or assign a company, then I should have the network of connecting to them and make that someone that opens the door and interview. So if they have a connection and they can find, that's very good. Otherwise, I go like you. I said, okay, now you analyze the company. You select a company, even a small shop. Select it. And based on publicly available information, hypothetically, if you are in charge, what would you do and justify how it will impact their bottom line if you implement your recommendations? In other way, analyze the existing company based on the publicly available information, offer some sustainability solutions strategically, and link that to their bottom line. So you have a consulting project, unsolicited proposal to go to the company and say, this is what I can do. So in one way or another, I get them engaged in terms of understanding how these issues fit nicely with the strategy of making money, being profitable. In terms of number of the team members, the size of the team, someone asked, I found the optimal level of 5 members will be a good optimal level. 3 is too small, the conflict will tear them apart. 7 is too big to manage. 5 is something. And often I stimulate, so let the leadership to emerge from the discussion instead of identifying. And then in a way, I let the decision of who will lead the project by at the end, it's me approving who's going to lead, because based on the knowledge, not on the personality of understanding the concept. So that's another thing that I do.
I have a question, Ruben Burga. Did you say 8 months, or do you think that I mean 2-3 months is going to be too short, or could I do like a mini like a mini project? I don't know. Do you think it's possible to do like this project but in a shorter time?
Yes, let me answer that question. Yes, it is possible. Compressing the time. To compress the time, it requires a little bit more work on your side, Camilla. You do have to identify the social entrepreneurial companies that they would need to address, because then you would be looking at their leadership and their behavior. Because part of the time involves the students, if they are actual full-time students, going out into their community and trying to create a network, and that amounts to a lot of back and forth between the companies to try and figure out if they accept it, to find out what this is about, and so on. So it can take anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks, depending on what size the company is. If it's a small shop with 5 or 6 people that are doing a neat entrepreneurial project, if it was in California, it'd be some kind of a high-tech a type of project. If it's in rural Canada, probably some type of agricultural project. That takes a little bit of time to talk to the individuals. So if you're crunched on time, I would select specific companies that you're aware of and get them to analyze the leadership. And that's just my suggestion. I think other professors might agree too.
How many students you have, Camilla? It depends on how many students you have to supervise. So, Camilla?
Yes, I have 3 groups of around 40 students. So there are 120, 3 groups.
120.
Yeah, and yes.
That may be a little bit too much on you.
But at the same time, my school here in France, Audense, is very engaged, and we have a chair of very engaged in one of the first schools to sign the Global Compact, and we have a lot of companies locally in Nantes. There are a lot of companies that we can identify easily. So, I mean, and I'm helped by, I'm collaborating, co-teaching with this colleague of mine who's also very engaged, Umesh Mukhi. He's very engaged. Maybe Claire knows him. So he's involved in the prime leads and this kind of activities. So I think could be doable if we can identify, yes, maybe it's a good idea to identify the companies before, and then we can manage the 2 of us. I think the project. We really want to work with this, so we're gonna try and that's why I'm happy to have your advice on this. But I think to identify the companies will be a good thing. Yes. Even though it's going to give us a lot of work. Yes.
If I could suggest one thing, I know we don't have too much time, but one thing that might work, you have 3 groups of 40, is if you identify a larger company, to have that company available to the single group of 40 in the classroom, for example, to make the process of inquiry right there and then. You're going to have in your group of 40, 5 people per group, so you have 8 groups. They have 8 different perspectives on how they are doing their OB or leadership or management. So that way it reduces the burden on you if you only have 3 companies to focus on. And that way maybe reduce the time scale.
Okay, that's a good idea. Thank you. Yes.
Camilla, there are a lot of companies and conferences in Paris. Next Tuesday, there is a conference I'm attending in the morning for environmental issues there. And those are very good contacts to start and target companies or identify companies and collaborate with.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
You are in Nantes. I don't know if there are any conferences there, but in Paris, there's regular conferences. There are good resources here.
Yes, it's interesting. In Paris, in Nantes also, there are a lot of things. I used to live in Paris before, so I go there frequently. It's only 2 hours by train. Yeah. And I'm also happy to know about your experience all your experiences in China. I've been to China recently in November to teach a DBA course in Chengdu. And I was surprised that some of the students were very interested in CSR. I mean, specifically one of them. Yeah.
Since we are 2 hours away, let's meet before I go back. If you come to Paris, or I can come and visit you. Right now, I will be in Paris for 2 more weeks. So we can meet.
Yes, please let me know when you'll be there.
Yeah. No, I'm in Paris right now.
Ah, okay, you're in Paris right now. Okay, yes.
Yeah, let's meet in next 2 weeks. We exchange contact information.
Yes, that's good thing, because then we can try to. I can try maybe to go to one of these conferences that you mentioned. Yeah, we can exchange contacts, and I'll try to see if I'll try to go to one of them and meet. Yeah, would be nice.
Sure. Okay.
That's wonderful. What I will do after this call is I will do just a super quick note, just for those of us on the call, just to make sure you have each other's emails, with a couple of notes of the learnings I'm getting. And then I'll also be doing a kind of larger roundup for the larger community and make this recording available. John, I want to make sure that you get a chance to jump in here with questions or thoughts.
No, I just enjoy listening, so I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. I have to say how wonderful it is to hear ideas organically that never occurred to me before. Just the inspiration that Ruben just shared about having the company come in and talk to everyone at once, and then the opportunity perhaps to have 8 different stories about the same company, I'm completely all for that. It's nice when we get 8 stories about 8 different companies, but the magic of appreciative inquiry for me is that every single conversation is a different relationship with an opportunity for different learning or different insights. So that's amazing. Ruben, I just have to say thank you for your persistence and patience with us as we continue to get better. We're now actively all engaged with the AIM2Flourish team on what we're calling AIM2Flourish 2.0, where we're going to shake down, and discover what's essential, what's working, what needs to come forward, and where are the pain points and the roadblocks or the missed handoffs that we can either fix or dismiss if they're non-essential. So all of you know, or most of you know, that I'm quite intense about AIM2Flourish and have been a champion for making it better with very limited resources. We are a tiny team, and it hasn't always been easy, but we can now be proud collectively of 400 new stories on the platform, each and every one written by business school students around the world. That is astonishing, and it's because of each of you, and it's only because of you. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of the team, and my pledge is to make it all better.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any closing thoughts? We have 1 minute on the clock. I'm happy to stay on for anything and everything, but to be respectful of time, let's just do a quick checkout. And my checkout is gratitude for each of you as a professional educator, and thank you so much.
My closing thoughts are, I'd love to share. I'd like to hear how things are done. So if you want to share, Claire, make sure my email is circulated, please, and I'm perfectly open to feedback.
For me, I enjoy listening to what others are doing, learning about new tools that are out there to use for the students. Thank you.
I just want to thank everyone for sharing their information, and I'm really looking forward to my first semester teaching this.
Well, it was a pleasure meeting each one of you for the first time. Been with this group for a long time from the beginning. I think I started with Isabel a long time ago. It's a pleasure to see the progress and all this new mindsets that are joining us and encouraging us. Thank you very much. I'm learning.
Well, from my side also, I want to thank you. I'm very excited to implement, to use this initiative. That it's a great initiative in my sense here this semester. And I was really happy to know about all this advice that you gave, the ones who experienced it before. Thank you.
Is that all of us?
Thank you. Thank you, Claire, for organizing.
Thank you so much, and I'm going to send an email now so it's fresh, and I wish all of you a very good day or good evening, and thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.